Behind the ivy-covered gates of Royal Lodge, where the lawns stretch endlessly toward Windsor Castle, the life of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson was anything but royal serenity. According to former aides, the atmosphere inside the sprawling estate was one of tension, temper, and an obsession with control. To the outside world, they were the friendly exes who managed to remain close, even living under the same roof decades after their divorce. But behind those doors, palace staff describe a household ruled by ritual, riddled with arguments, and shadowed by scandal. Former members of the royal household say that working for Prince Andrew wasn't simply a job, it was a test of endurance. One ex-footman told reporters he wanted perfection in everything: the temperature of his bathwater, the spacing of his shirts, the shine on his boots. Nothing escaped his eye. Others went further, calling him volatile and impossible to please. According to one senior palace insider, staff could tell what kind of day it would be by the sound of his footsteps. If they were quick, clipped, you braced yourself. Andrew's moods were said to shift without warning. He could be charming in one breath, then erupt the next. A former royal maid remembered how even the smallest misstep, a curtain folded incorrectly or a tea tray placed slightly off-center, could trigger a lecture about standards that lasted for hours. You could hear him shouting before you saw him, one aide told a royal biographer. He didn't tolerate mistakes, even the ones no one else would notice. Staff turnover at Royal Lodge was reportedly constant. According to former aides, people came and went all the time. You never lasted long unless you kept quiet. It wasn't just the workload, it was the unpredictability. One insider described it this way: there was always tension. Everyone walked on eggshells. You'd hear laughter one moment, shouting the next. We used to call it living under a thundercloud. Even senior royal aides, those trained to handle the peculiarities of palace life, admitted privately that Andrew's household was among the hardest assignments in the royal system. You could serve the queen herself and not feel that pressure, one said. And when his relationship with the press began to crumble, after the scandals, the lawsuits, and the royal demotions, staff said his temper grew worse. According to one longtime worker, after the fallout, he was angry all the time. Furious at the papers, furious at the palace, furious at the world. The only person he didn't seem to be angry at was Sarah. For years, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, was seen as the cheerful contrast to Andrew's rigidity. She was loud, approachable, and often described as the fun one in royal circles. But those who worked under her tell a more complex story. One former housemaid said, she was kind, yeah, but she could be high-strung. If things weren't right, she'd snap. Her mood swung like a pendulum. After her divorce, Sarah continued to live at Royal Lodge, telling friends she stayed for stability and to co-parent Beatrice and Eugenie. But insiders say she stayed for another reason, because she couldn't let go of the royal world. Royal Lodge was her safety net, said one friend close to the couple. It was the one place where she still felt relevant. Those who saw her daily described her as both nurturing and demanding. She could spend mornings baking scones for the kitchen staff, then afternoons berating the same people for serving tea too cold. A former butler recalled a moment of chaos. She'd sweep into the dining room, wave her arms, and tell us to start again. You never knew if she was going to hug you or scold you. Despite the tension, Andrew and Sarah's post-divorce life together became one of the strangest arrangements in royal history. They lived together for nearly 20 years after separating, eating meals together, hosting friends, and occasionally giving joint interviews. According to one palace aide, they acted like a married couple, but without the romance. It was companionship mixed with convenience. For years, that illusion worked. The queen reportedly indulged it, finding comfort in their friendship and the stability it offered their daughters. But behind closed doors, the atmosphere wasn't one of harmony. They depended on each other, but they also drove each other mad, said one former staff member. It was like watching two people stuck in a play they didn't know how to end. Insiders recall loud arguments echoing through the halls, often about money, renovations, or press appearances. They fought like they still had something to prove to each other, said a gardener who worked there during the early 2000s. But 5 minutes later, they'd be laughing in the same room. That push and pull defined their strange bond, and, some say, delayed Andrew's inevitable downfall. When Andrew's scandals exploded, first in the press, then in court, everything changed. He was stripped of his royal patronages, his military titles, and eventually his official status as His Royal Highness. Within the palace, it was a reckoning that many said was long overdue. A senior insider told a royal correspondent, "There were years of warnings. Everyone knew something was coming. The arrogance, the isolation, it couldn't last forever." As the royal family distanced itself, Andrew retreated behind the gates of Royal Lodge, rarely seen in public. Sarah continued to defend him, at first quietly, then more openly in interviews. She described him as a good man and the kindest soul I know, but those who had served in their home told a different story. He was good to her, said one maid, but terrible to everyone else. Behind the scenes, palace aides reportedly urged King Charles to remove Andrew from the property, a move that would finally sever his last link to royal privilege. But Andrew refused to go quietly. His lease, signed years ago, allowed him to remain indefinitely as long as he maintained the property. And he did, obsessively. He was out there inspecting the paintwork himself, said one worker, not because he cared about the building, but because it was the last bit of control he had left. Now, with Charles determined to modernize the monarchy and distance the crown from scandal, Andrew's future at Royal Lodge is uncertain. Sources close to the palace say he's been offered a smaller home on the Sandringham estate, but has resisted the move. Sarah, meanwhile, has sold her own property and was said to be quietly devastated at the idea of leaving the lodge. According to one insider, that house wasn't just a home, it was her identity. Without it, she's just Sarah again, not the Duchess. But the crown has made its decision. Andrew will vacate Royal Lodge within the year. Sarah will not be permitted to remain. After nearly 2 decades of living as royal exiles within royal walls, the arrangement that once shocked the palace is coming to an end. While their parents' lives unravel, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have quietly withdrawn from the chaos. Royal sources say both sisters have spent extended time abroad. Beatrice between the United States and Italy, Eugenie in Portugal, where her husband works for a luxury resort. According to one close family friend, they love their parents, but they can't keep cleaning up their messes. The scandal followed them everywhere. For the daughters, Royal Lodge had become a symbol not of family, but of everything they wanted to escape. As the sun sets over Windsor Great Park, Royal Lodge now stands as a monument to a fading era. A house once filled with privilege, now echoing with the weight of decline. Behind those walls, staff witnessed not just eccentricity, but the unraveling of 2 people who never truly let go of royal life. Prince Andrew, stripped of titles and trust. Sarah Ferguson, desperate to hold on to relevance. Together, they built a world detached from reality, one governed by rituals, outbursts, and the illusion of grandeur. It wasn't a royal home, one insider reflected. It was a kingdom built on denial. In the end, perhaps that's what Royal Lodge represents, not wealth or scandal, but the price of refusing to move on. For the royal family, Andrew's downfall isn't just personal. It's a reminder of how fragile the institution can be when privilege turns to entitlement and protection turns to indulgence. As for Sarah, her future remains uncertain. Will she reinvent herself outside the palace system or fade quietly into the background of royal history? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, behind those palace walls, the myth of the happy divorced couple has finally shattered, leaving only the echoes of what once was. If you found this deep dive revealing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us what you think. Did Prince Andrew's downfall begin inside those walls long before the scandals ever surfaced?